You know that cup of coffee you might be holding right now? Well, it has an absolutely incredible story to tell. We're talking a journey that spans centuries, entire continents, and the lives of millions of people. So let's dive in and uncover the epic tale behind the world's favorite bean. For so many of us, it's just a simple morning ritual, right? But behind that amazing aroma is a whole world of history, science, and just an immense amount of human effort. So the next time you take a sip, I want you to think, what am I really tasting here? Okay, so our story, it doesn't start in some trendy cafe. Nope, we have to go way back to the ancient highlands of Africa with a legend that is, honestly, almost too good to be true. So the story goes, there was this goat herder named Kaldi, and one day he sees his goats acting, well, weird. They were practically dancing, just full of energy. He figures out they'd been eating these strange little red berries off a bush. So what do you think he does? He tries them himself, of course. And pretty soon, Kaldi is right there, dancing alongside his goats. It's a charming story, but it's pretty much the mythical beginning of our long love affair with coffee. From Ethiopia, the coffee plant made its way across the Red Sea over to Yemen. And this is where things really get interesting. They were the first to roast the beans and brew them into a drink they called kaveh, which literally translates to that which prevents sleep. I mean, can you think of a more perfect name? It got so popular that Yemen became the very first place to cultivate coffee on these huge estates. So coffee went from being this little regional secret to a full-blown global phenomenon. And it wasn't just a drink. This was a bean that would go on to fuel empires, spark evolutions, and power some brilliant new ideas. And when I say it spread, I mean it spread like wildfire. In Constantinople, coffee houses popped up and became the center of all social and political life. Then you have London, where they were nicknamed penny universities. Just think about that. For the price of a single cup of coffee, you could sit down and listen to the brightest minds of the day, debate the latest news. It was literally fueling the age of enlightenment. The journey just kept going for centuries, from smuggled seeds that started entire economies in the Americas, all the way up to 1971, which really marks the birth of the specialty coffee scene we all know today. And you know that history is still all around us. Take Starbucks, for example. Ever wonder where that name came from? The founders were inspired by Moby Dick. They wanted a name that brought to mind the romance of the high seas and that adventurous spirit of the very first coffee traders who sailed all over the world. Kind of cool, right? All right, so we've covered the history, which is amazing. But what about the actual bean itself? Let's switch gears and trace its journey from a tiny fruit on a farm, maybe on the other side of the world, all the way to us. Just take a second to look at this number. 25 million. That's how many people, mostly on small family-run farms, rely on growing coffee to support themselves and their families. This isn't just a crop we're talking about. It's a massive global economic engine, and it's powered by millions and millions of really dedicated people. So, have you ever wondered why coffee from, say, Colombia tastes so different from a coffee that comes from Kenya? Well, the answer is this one fantastic word: terroir. It's a French term, and it basically captures everything about where a plant grows: the volcanic soil, the super high altitude, the specific patterns of sun and rain. All these little things come together to create the totally unique flavors we taste in the cup. Now, when it comes to the coffee we drink, we're really talking about two main species. First, you've got Arabica. This is what you'll find in most specialty coffee shops. It's loved for its complex, refined flavors, but it's also way more difficult to grow. Then there's Robusta. It's a much tougher plant, easier to grow, and it packs a bigger caffeine punch. But its flavor can be a little less refined, sometimes even harsh. That hunt for amazing, nuanced taste, that's exactly why the specialty coffee world is so obsessed with high-quality Arabica. Okay, so picking the perfect, ripe coffee cherry is just the beginning. The very next step, what's called processing. This is where a coffee's flavor is truly forged. It's a critical, almost scientific art form. And there are two main ways to do it. With the washed process, the fruit is literally scrubbed off the bean before it's dried. This gives you that really clean, crisp cup with a nice acidity that lets the bean's natural flavor shine. On the flip side, you have the natural process. Here, the bean dries inside the whole cherry, soaking up all those fruit sugars. The result? Those big, intense, almost jammy, fruit-forward flavors that so many people just go crazy for. Let's dig into that washed process for a second. It is all about precision. First, the fruit is removed. Then, the beans ferment in water. And this is a really controlled step that breaks down this sticky layer called mucilage. After that, they get a thorough washing and are carefully dried. Every single one of these stages is meticulously designed to create that signature, clean, bright flavor profile. So, what does the future hold for our favorite drink? Well, the story now takes a turn focusing on some really urgent challenges of our time and the industry's massive responsibility to step up and meet them. This quote from an agronomist who's right there on the front lines in Ethiopia, it really says it all. Climate change isn't some far-off threat anymore. It is happening right now, and it's a huge problem for coffee farming. We're seeing rising temperatures and new diseases that are putting the livelihoods of those 25 million people, and honestly, the future of coffee itself, at serious risk. So what can be done? Well, one really powerful approach is something called open source agronomy. What this means is that when research farms develop new types of coffee plants that are tougher and more resistant to disease, they don't keep it a secret. They share that knowledge for free with farmers everywhere. It's about helping the entire industry adapt and survive together. And it goes way beyond just the plants. It's about building a sustainable future from the ground up. You have these really comprehensive ethical sourcing programs like the C.A.F.E. practices from Starbucks that look at the entire ecosystem. They're built on 4 key pillars: paying farmers fair prices for great coffee, making sure the economics are transparent, protecting worker rights, and promoting farming practices that are actually good for the environment. So from a dancing goat in Ethiopia to a high-tech research lab in Costa Rica, from a bustling London coffee house centuries ago to the very farmer who picked that coffee cherry by hand, it is all right there, in your cup. The journey is just so vast and so complex. So really, the only question left to ask is, now that you know the story, how will it change the way you experience it?